Do you like decks that are super complicated and take forever to actually go through your turn? Well, if you do, this one's for you. Hey, Nick from 9Card TCG, and today we are looking at a post-rotation Giratina VSTAR Lost Zone deck that I think is really good. It's a deck that has been doing really well in Japan. Remember, their meta is ahead of us, so they're getting these Scarlet and Violet cards early. They're playing rotation or post-rotation already, so we kind of get the benefit from seeing what the builds are and what's going on and what's doing well, and we can kind of make some predictions about our meta when we do rotate, and Giratina VSTAR seems to be crushing it. So this is a variation of some Giratina VSTARs, right? There's something that I want to say. Well, actually, before we do, if you haven't already, do me a favor, like, subscribe, comment, all that kind of stuff. Tells YouTube this is a good channel. Other people should watch it. Now, this, like all early deck profiles, is just a template. It's just a starting point for you to get an idea of how this deck functions, the type of cards in it, and you can absolutely change it around as you see fit. But yeah, we're just going to go ahead, take a look at this deck profile, and talk about how it works, some cool little combos in there, and yeah, so let's get right... Oh, God, it was so cool. Let's get right to it. Alright, so I mentioned that we're going to be playing a Giratina VSTAR deck, and to start that off, we do need 2 copies of Giratina V. My God, that is so bright. The interesting thing about Giratina V is that it has the shred. Can you focus for a second here? The interesting thing about Giratina V is the shred attack for a grass psychic colorless, 160 damage, and it's not affected by effects or abilities on your opponent's active Pokemon. So that's really cool for dealing with things that take less damage during your next turn, that can't be damaged by Pokemon V, anything like that. You would kind of ignore right away, just with the shred attack. It's really nice. You're only giving up 2 prizes, so that's pretty cool. And we do have Abyss Seeking for just a colorless energy. Look at the top 4 cards of your deck. Put 2 of them into your hand, the other 2 in the Lost Zone. So getting something like a Giratina V in play early isn't exactly the end of the world, because we can, especially going second, right? First turn going second, comfy a bunch, and then we can use a Colress's Experiment, and we'll talk about those cards, and then you can finish off the turn with Abyss Seeking. So even if there are turns where we don't get the Comfies or the Colress going, we can still use Abyss Seeking and fill that Lost Zone a little bit quicker. We do have the Giratina VSTAR. Lost Impact for that, same Grass Psychic Colress as we saw on Shred with the V. Now we do 280 and put 2 energy from this card into, let me rephrase, 2 energy from your Pokemon in any way you want to the Lost Zone. Again, another way of filling up that Lost Zone with Giratina. Now we're doing damage. 280 is going to knock out pretty much every single Pokemon that you might see in play. If you're worried about some V maxes, we do have things like Choice Belt, so we can get to that 310 mark. And you're likely going to be able to soften them up with things like Cramorant. We have Sableye to put a little extra damage here and there. So we're going to be able to get that 320, 330 damage a little bit easier than you think. We also have Star Requiem as our VSTAR power. Grass Psychic Energy. You can only use this attack if you have 10 or more cards in the Lost Zone and your opponent's active Pokemon is just knocked out. Now, we are going to be losing Big Parasol, so we're actually losing a really big way of protecting against the Star Requiem. So in the case of like a Mew VMAX, you're in kind of a bit of trouble, because we are running a copy of Drapion. So Wild Style reduces the attack cost by 1 colorless for each Rapid Strike, Fusion Strike, or Single Strike Pokemon our opponent has in play. That Dynamic Tail will one-shot a Mew VMAX, and then all we need is 10 cards in the Lost Zone and a Giratina VSTAR, get that Grass Psychic Energy, and we just instantly KO the other Mew VMAX. We, like I said, don't have to worry about things like Big Parasol that kind of ruin our plans and make things a little bit difficult. We also have a copy of Radiant Greninja. Discard a card from your hand, or discard an energy from your hand, and then draw 2 cards. Moonlight Shuriken is really nice, 2 for 2 water and a colorless. It does 90 damage to 2 of your opponent's Pokemon, and discard 2 energy from this Pokemon. So, really nice way of just getting energies onto this thing and hitting something. We do 280, and we do 280 to like a stage 2 EX, something that has 300 health, and now they still have 20, 30 health remaining, something like that. They run to the bench. Well, we have Radiant Greninja so that we can go ahead and do that bench damage. if they have a Manaphy in play, well, we can't do bench damage, so we have to place damage counters, and that's where Sableye comes in. Lost Mind for just a single Psychic Energy. If you have 10 or more cards in the Lost Zone, put 12 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon in any way you want. Absolutely insane, crazy, crazy attack, and it's going to be a problem without something like Big Parasol. There is the Espeon VMAX with the Solar Revelation ability that prevents effects from any of your Pokemon that have energy can't be targeted by effects on your opponent's Pokemon, so it can't be targeted by Lost Mind, can't be targeted by Star Requiem, and then you have something like Manaphy, so that you can't be hit by damage counters on the bench. So there are things we can do about it, but it's not that many of them, and not every deck's going to be able to run a 1-1 Espeon VMAX or want to, and then it is a liable third, like a 3-prize target for your opponent to just boss KO, can be kind of annoying. Now, twice already, we've seen cards that require 10 cards in the Lost Zone in order to have their effects happen. Giratina VSTAR and Sableye. So how do we actually get cards in the Lost Zone? Well, one of those ways is Sableye. Oh my goodness, one of those ways is Comfey. Comfey has the flower selecting ability once during your turn when this Pokemon is in the active spot. Look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put one into your hand, the other in the Lost Zone. So we have 4 of these Comfeys so that we can go ahead and cycle between them. Now we are losing Scoop Up Net, something that is very, very important, or at the moment is very useful for helping recycle through Comfeys. At the moment, if you have one Comfey in the active and one on the bench, we use the first flower selecting. We can go ahead and use Scoop Up Net to pick this up, put it into the active, a new one, use this one, bench, and then retreat, whether it's a switch or a manual retreat, to bring this Comfey in, and now use flower selecting again. And we can get 3 flower selectings from just 2 Comfeys with Scoop Up Net. However, rotation means we lose the Scoop Up Net. So now, we're not going to be able to pick up those Comfeys and reuse them, which is why the Abyss Seeking on the Giratina V is kind of nice, because we might not get as many flower selectings per turn as we want. Another card that's going to make use of having cards in the Lost Zone is, of course, Cramorant. If you have 4 more cards in the Lost Zone, this card attacks for free, and it does 110 damage, ignoring weakness, which is pretty nice. It's just a way to take out opposing Sableyes, Comfeys, if our opponent has maybe a Pokemon V or a Pokemon that evolves into an EX. You're going to be taking a knockout on those type of Pokemon, and you can put really good chip damage into basic EXs and Vs, things like that. So Cramorant, really, really nice. It is worth noting that Klefki is a card. Now, Klefki, when it's in the active, it turns off all abilities on basic Pokemon. So that does include Drapion, Greninja, Cramorant, and Comfey. So the Klefki can really, really hurt this deck. Now, we will have a way to deal with the Klefki, but we'll get there. Our final Pokemon is Manaphy. We want to be able to protect our bench from opposing Greninjas, from anything that's going to snipe damage, since a lot of times we're going to have just these very frail single prize Pokemon, 70, 80, 110 HP. It's going to be pretty easy to just snipe them out of existence and really ruin our day. So Manaphy is very important for that. So there's all our Pokemon. Now, of course, this is all just a template. So keep that in mind. I said at the beginning of the video, this is a template. You can build this 1,000 different ways. This is just one example. You can very easily remove a Greninja, a Sableye, and a Cramorant to put in an extra Giratina V and V-Star. You can get one Giratina V, like a 3-2 line. Like, there's so many different ways you can do this. This is just one example. Now, let's move on to the energies, because we can cover those pretty quickly. Most of our energies are going to be basic energies, but we do have 2 special energies. We have 2 copies of Jet Energy. As long as this Pokemon is attached to a Pokemon, it provides a colorless energy. However, when you play this energy from your hand to one of your bench Pokemon, you get to switch that Pokemon with your active. This is great for things like Comfeys. We always want to have a Comfey in the active so that we can go ahead and flower selecting. Well, now we don't want to waste a manual retreat. So if we have, a perfect example of this is having 3 Comfeys in the active. No, 3 Comfeys on the bench. We can use the first flower select. Go ahead and attach a Jet Energy to this bench Comfey, which allows us to now switch it with the active. then we can go ahead and discard the Jet Energy to manually retreat after using the Flower Selecting to get our third Comfy. Go ahead, use Flower Selecting, and now with our reduced number of switch outs, because we are losing, like I said, the scoop up net, we don't have to worry as much about using and burning through all of our switch cards, escape ropes, things like that, because we have Jet Energy to not only act as a switch card, but allows us to be a pivot so we can retreat into something else. Again, you don't have to switch into the Comfy. This could be a great way of, oh man, I can only attach one energy, but I need to switch, Flower Select again so that I can attack with Cramorant. So I need to get, I first turn of the game, right? We can go ahead, play a Colress, get 2 cards in the Lost Zone, Flower Select number 1, go ahead, Jet Energy, Flower Select number 2. Now that's 4 cards in the Lost Zone, retreat, send up this Cramorant. This is now in the discard, and now we can attack for free. We've only played 1 supporter, 1 energy, and we did not use any of our other switch outs. So it's a really, really nice card for these Lost Zone decks, and I'm pretty excited for it as someone who does enjoy Lost Zone decks. So something to keep in mind is just a little bit of a strategy there. You don't have to include these. These Giratina decks are very Mirage Gate heavy, and you can't use Mirage Gate with Jet Energy, but something worth noting. Both the Giratina and the Sableye need Psychic Energy, so we got 3 Psychic Energies. Giratina does require a Grass Energy, so we got 3 Grass Energies, and the Radiant Greninja, the Cramorant, and the Manaphy all use Water Energies. Granted, we're not going to attack with the Manaphy very often, but there are times where we're 10-20 damage shy, and that Manaphy is just the thing we need to do 20 damage, get a KO. It's happened before, believe me. So, we got 11 energies. The Giratina only needs 1 Grass, 1 Psychic, and a Colress, so we can Lost Zone or discard some energies here and there, but we do want to be careful of it. Can you up this energy count? Absolutely. Your discretion. Moving on to the stadiums, we got 2 stadiums. Path to the Peak is going to kind of turn off other Pokemon, things like Radiant, the Gardevoir EX is going to turn off opposing Radiant Pokemon. It's going to turn off really any rule box Pokemon's ability. So kind of nice just to stop or try to slow down our opponent. It's nice for things like Mew. You kind of force them to have an answer to the Path to the Peak while we build up cards in the Lost Zone so that we can go ahead and Star Requiem and Mew VMAX and then use Drapion to take out the other, and that's game. So it kind of just forces a little bit of a, just try to slow down and disrupt just a little bit. And we do have 2 copies of Beach Court. Beach Court is a new stadium. The retreat cost of each basic Pokemon in play is 1 colorless less. And this is, a little interesting because you ever try to run on the beach? You're not doing it faster, so the fact that this actually reduces retreat cost is hilarious to me. But this is really nice because Comfy, Manaphy, Cramorant, I think Greninja, they all have retreat cost of 1, and they're all basic Pokemon. What is Manaphy's retreat cost? Yeah, they're all 1. Sableye is 1, and the Greninja is 1. So all of our basic Pokemon in this deck, with the exception of Giratina V and the Drapion V, have a retreat cost of 1. So we can just retreat for free without having to commit an energy to that Pokemon, which is actually really, really nice for being able to preserve our energies, not have to discard them. We don't have that many of each type. So being able to just retreat that Comfy for free and then Jet Energy and do all that kind of stuff is really nice. Do keep in mind, the Beach Court is a manual retreat, just like discarding the energy from Jet Energy is. So if you're going to try to use them, you do have to be mindful that you only get one manual retreat per turn. Moving on to our items. I have 1 Ultra Ball. Why do I have 1 Ultra Ball? It's just a way to guarantee we find that Giratina VSTAR. It's really nice to find a Drapion and Mew matchup, something like that. Do you need it? No, but I think it's a nice little inclusion. We have 2 copies of Lost Vacuum. Do you need 2? No. I think 1 is enough, especially in a format where we're not going to have something like Big Parasol. Do you need 2? No, but there are going to be times where you have to discard 1, or you lost someone early, or one's prized and you really need to get rid of something, or it's just a nice way of getting extra cards into your Lost Zone. You can't find that Culver's, you can't cycle through your comfies anymore the way you want to. So now we just get 2 cards in the Lost Zone if we target one of our own stadiums. So let's say we have a beach court in play. We go ahead, we Lost Vacuum, we get rid of this Ultra Ball. So now the Ultra Ball goes into the Lost Zone, and then we go ahead and get rid of our own beach court. So now we got 2 cards in the Lost Zone for free, basically. So it's just a way of getting that last card or 2 that we might need into the Lost Zone, and it's just a little helpful. I don't know, if 2 is necessary, but doesn't really hurt to have. We do have 2 copies of Switch. Now, why do we have Switch and not only Switch Cart? Is because Giratina VSTAR, right? That's pretty much the answer. We want to be able to move that Giratina VSTAR if we need to, but we do have 2 copies of Switch Cart. Honestly, the only difference between Switch and Switch Cart is that Switch Cart heals your basic damage, your basic Pokemon by 20. That's the only difference. So, that's, or 30 damage rather. Heal 30 if it's a basic Pokemon. So, that's, you have to, I think it has to be an active. Switch your active basic Pokemon with your bench Pokemon if you do heal 30 from that. So, it's okay. Almost every Pokemon we have in here, with the exception of Giratina VSTAR, is a basic Pokemon. So Switch Cart's going to be used pretty easily, but on the off chance we got to get that Giratina VSTAR out of the active, we do have a regular Switch. Now, we talked about Klefki being really, really dangerous and annoying. How do we deal with Klefki? Is the Escape Rope. We got 2 copies of Escape Rope. That's going to force them to bring up something else. And once they do bring up something that's not a Klefki, then we can start using our abilities again. But if they have 2 Klefkis in play and they just Escape Rope into the other one, you are in a little bit of trouble. So something to keep in mind. We got 2 copies of Energy Recycler. Why? Well, we might have to discard some energies here, and we're going to need those energies later in the game to use something like a Giratina. Do we want to knock out with a Radiant Greninja? We have to attack with a Cramorant, but a Klefki's in play. We can get those energies that we discarded back and Mirage Gate them onto a Pokemon so we can attack. We do have 3 copies of Nest Ball. Nest Ball, search your deck for a basic Pokemon and put it directly onto your bench. You cannot play Nest Ball if your bench is full, so keep that in mind. And, just manage your bench space wisely, but it is a nice way of just getting an early game comfy Cramorant, Sableye, something like that. You don't have to give up other resources and discard a card. And there's really nothing in here that needs to be played from your hand to the bench, unlike something like a Lumineon or a Crobat right now, that you can only use the ability when you play from your hand to the bench. Everything here, pretty much the ability is when it's on the bench already or in the active spot. So really nothing to worry about there. We do have 4 copies of Battle VIP Pass. Why do we have so many copies of VIP Pass? Well, we just want to we want to fill our bench with Comfies and Cramorants and things like that, so we can cycle through them and fill up the Lost Zone as quickly as possible. Another reason we want to fill up the Lost Zone as quickly as possible is because we have Mirage Gate. Mirage Gate, we can only play it if we have 7 or more cards in the Lost Zone, but you get to search your deck for 2 basic energies of different types and attach them to your Pokemon in any way you want. So this is incredible because we have the Giratina VSTAR that needs a Grass, a Psychic, and a Colorless. So we can play Mirage Gate to get a Grass and a Psychic energy from our deck and attach it to the Giratina VSTAR. And then once we attach it to the Giratina VSTAR, all we have to do is manually attach 1 more energy or even play a different Mirage Gate to get that 3rd and final energy. And at that point, it doesn't matter what it is. It could be any of our basic energies or even a Jet energy. We just have to be careful that we don't accidentally move something from the bench to the active if we don't want to. So Giratina VSTAR really, really benefits from something like Mirage Gate. Only needing 2 different types of energy is actually pretty huge. We can also just instantly Mirage Gate onto the Giratina VSTAR so that we can just hit with something like Star Requiem and insta-KO a Pokemon in the active. This is where Energy Recycler comes in. Our opponent dealt with maybe one of our Giratinas, knocked it out. Well, those energies that we discarded between things like the concealed cards on Greninja, we had to attach our energy and retreat. We had to, attach energies to a Giratina VSTAR and it got KO'd. Well, now we can go ahead and recover those energies and continue to Mirage Gate. And lastly, we have our supporters. We have a Roxanne. Roxanne's going to be really nice for later game comeback mechanics. Our opponent knocked out, say, a Drapion or a Giratina and one of our single prize basic Pokemon. Well, now we can go ahead and play Roxanne. Our opponent shuffles their hand into their deck, they draw 2 cards, and we shuffle our hands into our deck and draw 6. Really, really nice way of just trying to level the playing field again, slow our opponent down. Maybe we combine it with Path of the Peak to turn off abilities from things like Luminion so they don't get to find Professor's Research or something and draw pretty deep into their deck. So Roxanne, Path, Prey, right? That is a legitimate strategy. We have a copy of Clara to go ahead and recover energies and Pokemon. You can put 2 Pokemon and 2 basic energies from your discard into your hand. Really nice way. Again, we need to find something like that missing psychic energy so we can go ahead and use Giratina VSTAR's attack. Well, we can just go ahead and Clara and get it back. Or maybe we had to discard both of our Giratina VSTARs earlier in the game. We can go ahead and Clara, get it back, get an energy, evolve, attach, all that kind of stuff. We got 1 copy of Boss's Order, so we can bring something up from the bench, attack into it. Maybe we try to stall with that Roxanne Path Prey strategy that we talked about a minute ago. We do have 2 copies of Raihan. Raihan's going to be really important for not only finding something we want into the deck, but if our opponent was, we can only play it first off, if our opponent knocked out something during that last turn, accelerate a basic energy from the discard to one of your Pokemon, and then search your deck for any cards you want. So we can go ahead, let's say we have the Giratina V-Star, but we need the Mirage Gate, or we need the Energy Recycler, right? We only have 2 Energy Recyclers. It's more likely during the course of the game we'll see a Mirage Gate than we will an Energy Recycler. So it's the end of the game, our opponent knocks something out. Next turn they're going to win if we don't do something. We get the Raihan. Now we accelerate an energy from our discard to one of our Pokemon, probably the Giratina, because that's what we want to attack with. And then search our deck for any card we want. It could be the Energy Recycler, so we can get other energies from the discard back into the deck so we can Mirage Gate them and actually accelerate them. Maybe the energies are in the deck and we can go ahead and search for that, 4th and final Mirage Gate, something like that. Really nice way of just finding that missing piece you need to make something happen. Could you add something like a Forest Seal Stone in here? Yes, you could, but you really want to use Star Requiem to close out games and just win. You don't necessarily want to use something like a Forest Seal Stone, but I guess you could, and you can very easily attach it to the Drapion or to your Giratinas to use it. Something, I guess. And then our final supporter, our final card for the deck is Corvus's Experiment. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck and put 3 of them into your hand, 2 in the Lost Zone. Again, just a really great way of being able to put a lot of cards into the Lost Zone very quickly. Between Corvus, we get 2. We can easily get 2-3 Comfies going in a turn. Now we're at 4 or 5. A well-timed Lost Vacuum can get you that 6, maybe even 7 cards in the Lost Zone. And there you go, 7 cards in the Lost Zone for really not doing that much. And now we're ready to go start playing our Giratinas, start Mirage Gating. We can attack with Cramorant. You kind of unlock the whole deck really quickly if you play it right and sequence right. I mean, sometimes you do have to get a little lucky. Find your Comfies, find your switch outs. But between Jet Energy, I already showed how you can use 3 Flower Selectings for just 1 energy attachment, and that doesn't include the other switch cards that we have. It might be a little bit easier than you think. Some lists do include things like Pokegear, so you can go ahead, especially like in that mid-game where you have to dig kind of deep, and you don't have like that Culver's or something like that. You can use Pokegear, look at the top 7 cards, find a supporter. Maybe it finds you the Raihan, so you can go ahead and search your deck for anything you want. Maybe it finds the Culver's, whatever. You got a bunch of different options. So there you go. That's the whole deck. There you have it, a post-rotation Giratina V-Star Lost Zone deck. I hope you enjoyed, found it informative. If you did, like, subscribe, comment, all that kind of stuff tells YouTube this is a good channel. Other people should watch it. And let me know what you think about it in the comments below. I want to hear about it. It's a deck that I am very excited for. I just kind of get a handful of proxies. I need 1 more Giratina V-Star, the 2 Beach Core, the 2 Jet Energies, which aren't even out yet. And there you go. I actually don't know when Jet Energy is going to come to the US, something I probably should have said before, and I'll re-edit that and put it at the beginning. But yeah, that's going to do it. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.